Watching movies is a good method, but if you're not comfortable with it, please don't force it. So as a beginner, you may feel intimidated. But for me personally, watching movies did not help me because I did not grow up watching English movies. Because translating and thinking in your language and then converting to English is a wrong method. If you ask me, ma'am, which is the best web series or which is the best movie that can help you with fluency? To develop fluency in the English language, watching movies is a good method, but if you're not comfortable with it, please don't force yourself. There are a lot of factors surrounding this method. You must have heard English trainers, different platforms asking you to watch movies, watch web series. Of course, it helps, but you need to think about certain guidelines before indulging and working on this method. Welcome to another video on my channel. This is Rini Rose Matthew. How have you been? Thank you for supporting me this far. So today, going directly into the topic, watching movies. Definitely it helps with fluency in the English language. So let me first speak about the method and then I'll give you some guidelines. You have to keep these guidelines in mind as a beginner, as an intermediate, and also as an advanced learner. Otherwise, you could really end up in trouble, discouraging yourself and tormenting your brain. Why do we ask you to watch movies? I mean, I personally don't ask everybody to do it. It's one of the methods. That's because you can listen, watch, and also learn words, understand different usages, not just words, from context and situations. And that is why watching movies is one of the methods of developing the language. It's a subconscious effort when you watch movies and gradually learn words. And many people have been doing it. Now you need to keep a lot of things in mind. Watching movies and developing fluency in the English language will not work with everyone. It's not because you don't know the language. It's not because you're a beginner, if you feel so. It's not because you're dumb. It's not because you don't understand the English language. But watching movies, understanding the foreign context, or sometimes even Desi English movies created in India may not be familiar with everybody. It could be because of multiple reasons. First one is when you watch English movies, especially in the foreign accent, it could be American, it could be British, whatever you want to watch. Some of you turn on the subtitles. I've already done a video on the disadvantages and advantages of switching on the subtitles. Initially, as a beginner, you can do it, but it's quite difficult to read the subtitles, pay attention to the context, and learn the language. If you get familiar, it is easy, but otherwise, no. Some of you may not be familiar with the foreign accent. Some of you may not be familiar with the context because most of the foreign movies use slangs. If it's an American movie, even if it's a British English movie, you will have a lot of idioms and phrases. You may not be familiar with it, and that's not wrong. We may not have the same food item or the same situation in India. Maybe our culture is different, and that's totally okay. It's okay to not understand certain contexts because all the foreigners will not understand the context that we have in a different culture. Okay, you may have to elaborate and explain. So first point is you're not familiar. The second point could be because of the accent. You're not familiar with the accent. I told you pronunciation is very, very different from accent in the previous video. Pronunciation is more about articulation and the way you throw words. If you're not familiar with the accent, it doesn't mean you don't know English. You're just not familiar with the accent, that's all. English is a universal language. Indian English is accepted all over the world. We have a lot of people who speak beautiful English. Indian English is also part of standard pronunciation. So when you check Google, you have got British pronunciation, American pronunciation, and Indian pronunciation, not the accent. The next point is, if you're not familiar with the context, if you're not familiar with the accent, you're watching a movie. You know, when you watch movies in your own language, it's done effortlessly because you understand the language, you understand the slangs and the context. Even if it's a song, you will understand. But when it's a foreign movie, you need to get used to it. So as a beginner, you may feel intimidated. But once you get used to it, once you begin watching the series, once you begin doing it, you will get into the flow. It's not going to be difficult. I'll tell you what I did in my life, okay? I'll share that experience towards the end of the video because that really helped me. For me personally, watching movies did not help me because I did not grow up watching English movies to develop the language skills. I enjoyed reading books. Now I'll give you the experience towards the end of the video. Now sometimes you take a conscious effort compared to watching movies in your native tongue. You will have to read the subtitles, then understand the context, then understand the meaning of the words. You have to take extra effort. But once you begin doing it, you will get used to the flow. You will get used to the pattern of the context. I'm not saying that the story of one particular movie is going to be the same as the other. But there are a lot of people who get used to it. You know, classic movies, comedy, tragedy, whatever you want to watch. Who told you that if you don't understand English movies, you cannot learn the English language? It's only one of the methods. And one more point that I want to tell you is when you watch movies in your own native tongue, you will sometimes have the subtitles in English. I know that you understand the context. You don't have to even read the subtitles, but just for the fun of it, read the subtitles of the songs. I'm not asking you to translate and learn because translating and thinking in your language and then converting to English is a wrong method. It's not going to help you. I've already done videos on that. Now my point is, just for the fun of it, just to read a few sentences in English, you can read the subtitles. Suppose you have the songs going on, you can read the subtitles and enjoy the imagery and the poetry underlying those particular lines. But still, when you already know the context, if you're familiar with the movie, if you're watching it for the second time, just for the fun of it, read a different word, understand the context. Even if you don't connect it with the scene that's going on, you can just learn a few words. Try it out. So remember, you're not translating and studying here. You're just reading something. Just like how you read a book. Of course, you know the story. How can the same story be retold in English? Maybe this way? Like that you can watch for the fun of it. But when you watch an English movie, if you're going to switch on the subtitles, as a beginner, it's fine because you just want to get familiar with the language. Sometimes they're too fast when they speak. You may not understand certain words. Even if you are quite familiar with their accent, they go very fast. Ta-da-da-da, it will go like that. So you may need the help of the subtitle. That's okay, but don't become dependent on it. Because you need to practice listening. And movies are not just made to teach you language. When you go for IELTS examination or when you go for listening classes, you will understand the audios are paced in such a way that you will understand. You have normal speed, you have slow pace, you also have the regular speed. That's how I take classes for my learners because that's for the purpose of teaching and learning. But when it comes to movie, nobody is asking you to or nobody is expecting you to learn the language. So it is made for entertainment and for the story in itself. But we are taking an extra effort to learn from the movies, to learn from everything that comes our way in the English language. So it is our interest. So I have given you a way in which you can make use of it. When you make use of it, it becomes a tool. And you're using this tool to help you with the fluency. Now, fluency is a combination of speaking, reading, writing, listening, communication, presence of mind, everything. I have told you that so many times. It's spontaneity also. Everything comes as a layer under communication skills, under fluency. You cannot become fluent just by speaking. I already told you about that. You cannot become fluent just by watching the English movies because you're listening and receiving something. Where is the practice? Until and unless you use the word in your conversation, and unless you understand the meaning of the words from your conversation, how can you get it registered in your mind? So it's just logical and practical. It's one of the methods, because some of the learners come and tell me, ma'am, I'm not able to understand the movies in English. I'm not able to understand some of the web series. Am I really bad in English because I've reached the advanced level? And English, as I told you, is a universal language. It's not just for the natives. Of course, it's good to learn from them. When I was in grade 7, I watched Titanic because many people said, oh, it's very interesting. So at least to see what's going on there, after reading the facts about this magnanimous ship creation, I wanted to watch the movie. But before that, as a child, I used to watch TV programs, television programs in English, American programs, and something that I always cherished watching is this one, Small Wonder. Have you watched this on Star Plus? Yeah, so this is something that I loved for the story. It was quite different. The way humor was incorporated into the story, that was quite different from all the other serials. Okay, it was a combination of many episodes. So like that, so many programs were there. And I think we had access only to ZTV in the beginning, you know. Later we had channels and television programs from other regional languages. So I enjoyed watching Small Wonder, and I watched a lot of television programs. In those days we didn't have YouTube, okay, and of course Hindi programs and Hindi serials. We had beautiful musical programs, or a lot of other presentational programs on ZTV. And I think after that I caught hold of Harry Potter, the book, okay. I enjoyed reading the book, and as soon as Harry Potter got released, I began watching the movies. What I'm trying to tell you is that's when I got familiar with this genre films, because that's when I had the access personally to get the cassettes or get whatever, the CDs, borrow, exchange with friends. I'm not telling that I don't enjoy watching films, but books have been always a part of my life, and books have helped me in developing my fluency and also my language skills. Somehow that's something that worked with me. So now if you ask me, ma'am, which is the best web series or which is the best movie that can help you with fluency, there's nothing like that. There is no particular book that can help you with fluency. Everything has got, every book, every film has got something important. When you look around you, language is very much a part of life. It's a form of expression. You need to observe, you need to get a lot of things from your surroundings, from the resources that you have. So fluency is like a bucket where you get all the resources, you watch everything, pick and choose and put it in your bucket of language, and whenever needed you can take and just have a beautiful shower of language. Okay, so I hope this video helps you, and thank you so much for staying with me. If you really have any questions, if you want to ask something very sensible, definitely you can contact. This is my email ID. Email IDs are shared so that you can put in your suggestions and feedback. So I hope this helps you, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.